Now what's the plan this time? Is it this? So I like this because this is one of the other ones that's like I've been watching sort of in the background. But I like this because it's very much dealing with the sort of like, because a lot of the times it was very much here's either you had like three groups and it's like, okay, how are you gonna deal with the future? At some point they left and went to the other island. I don't know if it's in this, I don't think it's in this season. They went to the other island where they found the Medusa device. And they did all that. But most of it was very much to a certain point. Even the island I don't think was that far in there. But overall it was very much local to Japan. Well, this goes from Japan to America to South America. We're going across the world. They do talk about this. This is a whole thing with this, but I just like how it's like in the world. Because realistically, if it's like, so by the way, all the animals in this were turned to stone. Like every single bird around the world was turned to stone. You would realistically get something and be like, okay, so we're having reports, because I think it's like 1 day between the two. If you look at the original, the original event, it was like, I was about to say original continuity. Mm-hmm. There's 1 day. So when they're going to the other world, it's like, it makes sense, but it's like, so we're having reports all around the world because this is the reason why I think it's interesting, is because it is a known thing. I'm going to bring it into my actual life. Because I went on holiday, this like sort of like really nice castle. Actually, I said I went to Jersey Pacific, Elizabeth Castle, and if you go there, one of the places you can do is you can do bird watching. It's a big thing, so that the fact that a couple of people, definitely now, but more specifically definitely when I think this original event set place. Because it was, I don't know if it's the original airing episode of that or when that event happened. I know it was modern time period, but a couple of series happened and it's been a couple of years. But anyway, that's me being like very weird. But anyway, bird watching and doing it through social media is very big. So having other countries like America in this, somewhat kind of still keep an eye on, like, okay, a couple of people are saying birds are turning into stones. That should not be a thing. So yeah. I definitely think this was really interesting. And when you started bringing it, because with the last one, you got some stuff which makes sense. Like basic communication, this. And a lot of the stuff is like, so we're going like several miles ahead. Because when I was like, oh yeah, we're going to do glass. I'm like, what the? And some of the stuff was like, oh yeah, you need these insane processes. Like, okay, we have stones. Well, how deep are we going to do any of this? But I think it's really gone to the point where it's like, okay, people, we're going to do it. Okay, we have this now, I guess. Which is essentially them getting an aeroplane. Yeah, you heard me right. An aeroplane and a boat and motorcycles. Which it kind of, there is evidence because the people who made the boats and the planes are also like, why am I bad with names? Have like these intelligence to them. I remember his name, which is I think Dr. Eggs. Which is all of that stuff. And it's so interesting. I also like the plan, which is to get the Medusa device, seem like they want to get into it. And it's so terrifying when you see like the literal, I think it's like shaped as a pyramid, so I'm just going to say that. I know it's not a pyramid, so take it with like a shape form, not a pyramid thing. But you have this pyramid of these Medusas and like we had one and that was groundbreaking. How many are here? I know, I like it at a certain point where like, so we have all of these. Because it makes sense. One, you can't destroy it. It would be a bit dangerous. You only have one, you don't know how many are left. It was like, oh, we have all of these. Let's just break a couple of them. Who cares? I also like the idea of the plan that meant it sort of like refossilized every single person. I think, including, I think, probably the people in Japan, I think. Right. And the person at the time, all of this was set in motion and it took a while to get the sort of liquid back. That's the revival fluid. And they've actually done a thing where it's like, they've actually aged up, because you had one of these characters who was the one with like the melon around their head. I don't know what the thing is around her head. And we've actually done that, and it's been like, okay, we're gonna get this and this. And at a certain point, because you had sort of like two things, you had going to America, you had three things. You had going to America and sort of setting up the corn, which led to that conflict initially. And then you had going to the new situation, which is this situation with this person who we don't know about. No, you had the second in command, like the military person trying to chase them to find sort of like these things where we know the point of the thing spreading. The one thing I also find hilarious is you also had, because originally it was like, oh, like we probably won't meet anyone else. And it's like, oh, we'll meet another person who was originally part of the initial group that they found, but it was like, went the wrong way. It's like, we set up a sign, it's like, didn't see any. Again, I find all the stuff that comes, it makes sense, it's logical. I also do like the fact where it's like, all of that happened and then they're all coming together and they're doing this thing. And they come together and actually try and go to space, which is so fun. It's slowly but surely doing this thing of like, because like you still have the two strong guys who were at one point at the initial beginning, and later on when he had the island by itself, two enemies joining on their side, which I think is insane. You also have later on a couple of other people joining her. So like having Dr. X being like, oh, I'll join you, was like, okay, we're just having enemies become allies, but what do you mean? I don't mean but. So yeah. This is good, it's really enjoyable, and I absolutely do like this, and I do think this is really good for what this is. It's fun, it's exciting, it's entertaining, and it looks more into like this other group that they get introduced, like I said, which makes, because they have a connection, it more interesting. You also see the other side of science. I didn't say this, and I think I should. Some of the earlier ones is basically sometimes science can be taken too far, and the idea of like some people using that to being like, oh, because of this we are superior, etc., etc. And sometimes people take advantage because of that and all that stuff. Which for the original series, and having him being like, no, sometimes the strong and that way makes sense. But his one being like, oh, we're going to use this science to manipulate and try and get ahead. That's how science should be, not having this bureaucrat push us down. Which is interesting, which is complete opposite of the original villain. But yeah, this is so fun. So yeah, this is next, which again, I put it out as something funny and hilarious, but yeah, I hope you enjoy, and good night.